Hey everyone, this is Jason Kirby, founder and managing director at Thunder. I'm here with Mark Peter Davis, also known as MPD, managing partner at Interplay, and his partner leading up the Interplay Ventures, Mike, with us to basically do some deck reviews and give you guys some feedback. They have not seen these decks in advance. These will be their first impressions and honest impressions of what they think about the decks that we've selected. And I want to just cut straight to it and let the two stars of the show take over and hop in and tell maybe a little bit about themselves and go into these decks.
Yeah. Do you want to do a quick intro?
Sure. Mike Rogers, as alluded to, partner on Interplay's venture capital arm. We focus on seed extension to Series B rounds. We're investing in SaaS, the traditional enterprise SaaS, vertical SaaS, B2B marketplaces, and consumer tech.
Very cool. MPD, managing partner, founder of Interplay. Interplay is a mission-driven, for-profit startup ecosystem. The mission centers around our belief that entrepreneurs are the primary driver of social change, and we're doing everything we can to help them. We have 5 divisions, everything from capital to we provide tons of different types of core operating services like accounting, tax, CFO, law, business process outsourcing, marketing, beyond. We've got a studio where we incubate companies and start our own. We have a multifamily office where we help entrepreneurs and others manage capital. And then we produce content like a podcast. I wrote a book. We do a bunch of communities, all things to help educate entrepreneurs. So without further ado, we're going to jump into these decks.
Okay, cool. Let's do it.
All right. So our first one is choice. I'm guessing I'm pronouncing that right.
Could be choosy.
Choosy. Okay. Could be. Building a multi-billion-dollar company and
I'll stop right away.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
There's a lot happening on this first slide. And I kind of understand the desire for founders to pack it all in. But you have to realize is for VCs, we're looking through maybe 10 of these a day. So how do you kind of optimize time? If I see something like this, it's not really just kind of telling me the core story very quickly and dragging me in. Like you want someone to get interested in a book or a magazine article or whatever they're reading. So first kind of like core mistake here is there's way too much going on this slide, and it's way too hard for me to quickly figure out either what problem they're solving or what the company does.
Yeah, I think there's 2 types of slides, putting kind of my old consulting hat on, that people can make. They can do a standalone deck, which is meant to be like a book that you read and no one looks it over. And there's a stand-up where ideally someone's presenting it. The trick is here, no one's presenting this to us, but we need it to be less than a book. Right. So in the startup ecosystem, VCs need to quickly be able to figure out what the heck's going on, what the company is, why they're doing it. And there is a natural cadence to the flow of these decks that we expect to see. Here's my version of it. Everyone's got a slight different twist. You got a title slide. You have a pain point, a solution. Each of these could be 1 to 2 slides if you need a couple more slides to explain it. Right. Then there's an addressable population, like who the customer is, how you monetize that, so you get pricing figured out. That also bakes up to a addressable market. You can then look at competitive dynamics, uses of proceeds, and team. Generally in the pitches, sometimes I'll usually put the team first. But all of these pieces are usually really simple, where you glance at a slide and you've ingested the key concept. What we're looking at here is a book. So this would require stopping and reading it, which most people don't want to do. I think the typical VCs they're scanning at this stage to do checkboxes. They're to say, hey, is this a fit for us? Yeah. If it's not a fit for our stage, our geography, all the basics, then they don't want to spend more time on it because it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to help anybody.
Yeah. I think the difference here that people need to focus on is what's this deck for? In my opinion, the deck is really for you to get the meeting. And then you can dive into all the deep data and learnings and customer data, et cetera, the why in the pitch and via follow-up data dumps. The pitch is, how do I get myself in the room?
Right. And so looking at their deck, not even getting into their specific company, this second slide here that I'm seeing, this is probably 5 slides, 4 slides, something. Right. The vision is probably like what they're building. They've got a market bit. This is the market problem. So this is probably their pain point. I believe pain usually goes before what the solution is, right? Innovation might be their solution. It's just not packaged in a way that's easy to consume. Yeah. All right. Want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Who we got? H2 Crypto. This is good. This simple next-gen cryptocurrency exchange anchors the rest of the reading.
Right.
Now I'm reading what it said in the context of it's something around cryptocurrency exchange. That's helpful. So being able to get it down to a simple tagline is actually useful for kind of setting context. Okay, they've got pain in the right order. I like the flow of this. Again, bit of reading you got to do, but sometimes there's no way around it. In some situations, a visual could really do the job. I haven't dug into this enough to know if that's possible. But this is something where I at least know that this slide has what I'm looking for at the right time. Same with the solution, right? Okay. Now their market, okay, so they bring in total available market. So they're kind of making a step here. They're not saying like how they make money. One of the things a lot of entrepreneurs don't do, and I don't know if this deck is doing it correctly or not, haven't had time to dig in, is they'll talk about a total market opportunity, and they won't stop and quantify, hey, this is our revenue, and if we got 100% market share, this is what the addressable market is. You can see that they're actually doing this here in this slide of the data, but I don't know the price per customer from glancing at this, and that's a helpful thing to see. Now, for mature companies, like they've got operations and they're already in business, really also helpful not just to see the pricing, but to also see conversion metrics, LTV CAC ratios, how they're acquiring customers. All of that helps say like, hey, we're buying customers for X, we're making this price, this average sales price per customer. There's this many customers, and as a result, our market opportunity, if we got 100% of the market, would be X of revenue. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this deck, to your point, actually does a fairly decent job of telling the story here. And as you can see, a lot less words per page. There's still too much going on here, to be honest with you. Like anything that you need to zoom in on to see is candidly is too hard for the VC. Here's a competitive analysis slide, which I like, the business model. I think it's, I'd give it a B overall. It's not the worst deck I've seen. It's certainly not the best. I think they're going for a design edge here that to me feels like in some places a little bit too hard to read, perhaps. Remember, if I'm taking 60 seconds on your deck, I shouldn't be having to look through and try to figure out what the font is, etc. But overall, not a terrible outline for a deck. Obviously, haven't dug into the core content.
It makes me think one trick in this that I think is a good tip for entrepreneurs is at the top of each of these slides, you've got the agenda. You've got the topic that we would want to see. So it's our solution. Okay. I think it's really cool when a company says solution : and actually has a phrase that articulates what the solution is.
Yeah.
Or pain. I have to dive in here to see what's going on. Like maybe it's no customer service. So pain : no customer service. And then you have the detail down below. But just when I read that tagline, in theory, if I read those taglines, just those big bold areas, I would actually know kind of what the gist is of what the deck is saying. This doesn't do it. This gives us an agenda, not the answer.
Yeah. Again, the less is more concept here I think is really important for founders to understand. Just get the meeting.
Yeah. Last thing I'd throw at this is, look, for anyone building a consumer-oriented solution, I don't know enough about this to know that that's actually the case here. Having a nicely designed deck is actually really worthwhile.
Yeah.
You get an ugly deck from a group of people that are trying to build a beautiful consumer app, and it's kind of like a dentist with bad teeth, right? Like you're just like, wait, there's no proof in the pudding. So we actually look at that. A lot of VCs do, and they have an emotional reactions to the decks that I think actually does influence outcomes.
100%. A really well-branded, beautifully designed deck on a not as good company will get you more meetings. And again, goal of the deck here is to really get yourself in the door and sell and explain why this is the best opportunity, why they should be spending time on your company. Beautiful deck means you're putting in the time, you're putting in the money, you're putting in the energy, you're really invested in this thing. And you're willing to spend a few bucks to make sure that your message is heard, which is important.
Hire a designer.
Yeah.
People offshore, onshore, $500, couple $1,000 can make a huge difference in your marketing material and definitely worth it.
Yeah.
All right. Here's another one. PeerPay. Okay.
Which is great for saving color ink.
There you go. But it's also, again, good taggage up front. Again, you're seeing here the same pattern. Here's a summary versus saying pain point, solution, whatever this, and that giving me the answer in the actual tag. System of people.
Yeah, too hard to read up front.
Yeah, this is just going to be slow down now and read this. And this is a pain point. Despite innovations, it's not designed and well prepared for 1.5 billion people without access to banking. Okay, so we're getting to a pain point. Maybe there's a visual, maybe there's a math metric. This whole slide could maybe be 1.5 billion people don't have bank accounts. I don't know if that's the exact message here, but if we were to dig in, that might be a sufficient insight to kind of start carrying the message through. Okay, here's some more detailed stuff, a little hard to read in the formatting.
Yeah, you can see here too. I mean, if you look at this slide, you can see the formatting's all off. So you've got bullets up top, you've got paragraph below, you've got some things bleeding into the edges. Again, back to the design aspect of this, I think the way to think about this is if you gave this deck to a designer, would they approve or disapprove of the way it's being presented to the world? And I think in this case, you'd clearly say, hey, even if you look up the slide up top, you can see the margins aren't right. Some are double spaced. You're missing. At the end of the day, like it's a care thing, right? You're not going to spend, if you're not spending the time to make sure that your margins are aligned, why should I spend the time to look at your deck? And I know that might sound nuanced, but again, you have to remember there's 100 decks a week. How do you whittle down to make sure you're spending time on the right ones?
Totally. And what kind of care is going to be given to the development of the actual company?
Yeah.
Now, this entrepreneur may be incredibly caring and thorough in their actual business. The problem is this material actually communicates the opposite,
right?
Intentionally or not. Okay. All right, let's go to the next one, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a lot, this diagram here. Not a big fan of it. I think this whole thing, first reaction is it's made by a mere mortal business person who's working with PowerPoint or equivalent. And again, really want to have designers do the work if you can. This is probably not the right place to start. As we talked about, I like to start with the pain point of problem, and they've got that after the company description. And maybe this slide could just be the sentence, but this whole diagram is just it's too overwhelming right now. I don't know what's going on, and I don't really want to dig into that. I want to kind of get some baseline of like what problem are we talking about. Here's a much better set of slides. This cleans it up a little bit.
Yep.
What's your take on this?
Yeah, I totally agree. The first slide is extremely confusing. And again, you got to hook the customer. You got to hook the customer in the founder's case now, the customer is the VC. So it definitely improves in terms of flow.
Yeah, it's really that first slide was tough.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a fairly good financials chart.
Yeah, pretty good overall.
It's good. I mean,
yeah,
again,
first two slides redo.
Could use a design lap. I also don't recommend that founders date. This is, I think, a good piece of feedback. I recommend you don't date the deck. September 2022, this one says, because if you're still raising in December, you want to make sure that people don't see that as September 22 deck. You kind of want to make sure you can maintain some anonymity when in the fundraising cycle as to where you are. People will pass this deck around perhaps in December. You see it's the same deck. Do yourself a favor and I'd say keep the date off the deck.
Yeah, and also if the deck is really old and you're sending it as your latest deck, it means you've been raising for a long time.
Yeah.
Which to us means everyone else has said no, which means probably not a good deal.
Negative signal in the market.
Negative signal. Okay, another very simple design needed deck.
Yeah. Let's scroll down to the bottom. We've dealt with a lot of top stuff. I want to get to some of. We've got some. Here we go. Perfect. So the capital raise and use of proceeds slide. This is one where I think a lot of founders mess up. This one doesn't do what I would call the biggest no-no in the space. The biggest no-no in the space is never put a valuation on this slide. This is just a clear indicator to investors that you don't understand how fundraising and capital markets work. This one does a pretty good job. It just says, here's how much money we need. This is how long it'll get us. And this is what we need it for. I think this is actually a good slide in terms of content. In terms of design and all that stuff, I think could use some improvement, but this is the right content that people I think want to see for a pre-seed round. As you get a little bit more advanced in the fundraising cycle, I don't think you need to show as much item level detail. Perhaps just say, Series A round of $5 million or $10 million and just kind of leave it at that.
One hack I like to do, and I do agree, I think the content here is directionally the right stuff. They got 18 to 24 months of runway, which is generally the term you're trying to cover with the financing. I mean, it shows that this entrepreneur understands the cadence of venture capital and the cycles and what you're supposed to achieve between rounds.
Yeah.
I generally think it's a good hack to put like 750 plus, just putting a plus sign at the end of it. There's all different types of VCs have all different types of targets when they're doing rounds and they're putting a deal together. Some want to put more money in. Some want to put less money in. Some are focused more on the valuation. It's always some mix and match of all of it. And the more you create a range without being vague, it allows you to get more people to the table to have a conversation. Maybe there's a VC who only writes $1 million checks and they look at this and say, oh, okay, now I got to go see if they'll do it. If you put the plus, they know there's an open conversation right there.
Yeah. Cool. Let's go one more. Awesome.
Okay, I got some design going. Cool.
There you go. That's a nice intro slide. Shopping for travel is broken. Doesn't really, it's clear. Doesn't really tell me what the.
But I know what we're talking about.
I know what we're talking about. Great.
Right.
Right. Cool. The problem.
Okay.
Nice.
We like this one.
Yeah, I would say it's a little hard to read, but I get the vibe they're going for.
Okay. So there's a lot of money.
Right. Market
and
size.
It's not easy to find travel. Got it.
This is the best deck yet.
Okay. Okay. More people want to do it. Okay. There's a lot of market story here that maybe could have been one slide.
Yeah.
Maybe some extra slides here. We know that there's a lot of money spent on travel. So we're kind of bought into that. We don't need 5 slides to be convinced. But this starts to get in their solution, how we're different. Okay.
Cool.
Okay. These are good feature thoughts here.
Yeah.
That maybe add
Again,
up.
pulling us in. Okay, got it. Yep. I know that travel's a pain to book. We've all lived it. How you're different. Try us out. It makes sense.
Hey, things are moving.
Traction slide is wonderful.
Yeah, if you have some LTV CAC data, that's super useful, but probably too early for that. Okay, business model. Yeah, generally, I think there's some over our basic structuring around, you do the business model and then it builds into, go ahead and drive it. It builds into a market size and a few other things. So it's probably some sorting I would do. And I would consolidate some of those market segments. But this is an overall, the kind of deck that gets a meeting.
Yeah, this is great. I like the team, and then I like the previous investors and advisors, especially if you have good names that you can kind of rep. And then, yeah, I think great deck.
All right, we're going to end on a high.
Yeah, good deck. Good job, Alud.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, take care.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for providing your feedback on these decks. Much appreciated. And we look forward to sharing with our community as well as the founders themselves that shared their decks. It sounded like we noticed a common theme of design matters and the flow of the content. We're actually working on content to help educate a lot of the founders on when they bring their decks to Thunder to do their raise, providing them the context that they need to make sure that they don't have to get that feedback from the VCs, and the VCs actually want to go through the rest of the deck, like you guys did with Alud. Alud went all the way through, whereas some of the other ones you couldn't even make it past the first couple slides.
And Jason, there's some great tools now. I won't shout out any specific companies, but there are some great tools, websites that use AI to drive beautiful decks that are really easy to create online. You don't need to go hire a designer. Honestly, you can do it yourself. And I think that is one more reason why it's so important to get a well-designed deck, because I know how low the bar is now. So if you can't find those tools to design a well-decked thing, or you're not going to invest in it, then it just doesn't send the right signal early on about your business.
Yeah. Trying to raise millions of dollars, you should spend a couple grand on getting
pursuing excellence and everything.
And you can do it for almost free now. Is really the truth. So there's got to be a way.
Well, Mark, Mike, I genuinely appreciate you guys dedicating some time and sharing your opinions and expertise to our community. It's much appreciated, and we look forward to sharing this with the community soon.
Our pleasure.
Best of luck to all the founders.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.